Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another YouTube video. So to start with, today we're going to have a quick look at Bitcoin, but realistically, nothing's really changed between today and yesterday. In fact, I just tweeted to say, what do you think comes next with boring Bitcoin? It's basically just chopped around in a range. Like this price action over the weekend from Friday to Sunday evening was like this weird, like manipulated price action that you do often see over weekends where no one really dares push price one way or another. And we're still kind of sitting like that now. As we discussed yesterday, we have formed a higher low off a bullish divergence or a hidden bullish divergence. Here, I don't know why there you go, but like this, you see as the RSI makes lower low and the price makes a higher low. We touched on this yesterday, and we've then continued to set a higher high and at this point a higher low within this fair value gap that I discussed yesterday. But we haven't yet taken this descending trend line, so it's just up for question marks still at the minute. We are looking here at the hourly liquidity, and hourly liquidity above us looks dense at around 94 to 95k, and then another little section at 100k. But then in contrary to that, we do have liquidity at 76k as well. And like as I've said, bottoming patterns are hard, and because of this, I've got the ENA bid still on. This is what we keep going over. There's no way that anyone can say that I haven't told you exactly how I'm playing this. If we do get the pull down into 21.5, for example, for ENA, so if Bitcoin does flush these lows and trick us all at the bottom, which I don't think is unreasonable to think, and then I would expect the ENA bid to get completed for us to get into the trade. Also, I do think that ETH looks good, and we're making the ENA play as a beta on ETH. I don't hold any ETH right now. The 4-hour RSI does like it could like roll down back into this green section. However, again, we've made a higher low after making a high. So we've made a high, higher low, higher high, higher low. At the minute, consolidating and making the decision as to whether we're going to make a higher high. People do say you have to see three patterns of three, so 3 higher lows and 3 higher highs before you can call it a trend reversal. So let's see if we get that. The other thing that's interesting, I think, this morning is that Zcash is starting to move. Now, I'll take us to the daily time frame for this to start with. What you can see is this area, this white solid line is basically the breakdown area that we had for Zcash's recent low, and then I said there was a range. I said, look, I was looking to put a long position below the range. Actually, thank goodness, removed that and changed that to ENA because it would have crashed straight through. But it is now potentially reclaiming this range again. So if you were looking to trade Zcash, and this is on the daily time frame, what we can see is a nice bullish cross on the RSI after coming back into this support level, which I actually did highlight as well. After coming back into this support here, literally just tapping it on top and then reversing. What you would be looking at here is, if you were looking to trade Zcash, maybe something like along these lines. I'll try and show you a potential trade. We are getting into the overbought area on the 4-hour side just as we come into resistance, and we haven't closed any 4-hour candles yet. I'll be looking to see a daily close within this range where this low is. And then what I'd like to see, if I was going to make a trade myself on Zcash, which I'm not because I'm using my liquidity for ENA specifically in this position. But if I was going to make a trade for Zcash, what I'd be looking for is some sort of push into this area and then a retrace. I'd probably enter here, and then you could put your stops below this cluster here by like 380-ish. You could enter the 420 mark and you'd be looking to target the top of the range. And what sort of risk to reward would this give you? Let's see. There's that. And then there's that. That'd be a nice 7.4 to 1 risk to reward trade, just playing the ranges here for Zcash. So there's a trade idea there. I hope you can understand why I'd look at that and why I'd take that. I'd look at other things as well, like what Bitcoin was doing at the time, and they'd be important for the trade decision as always. But there's an idea there. Now going on to Bitcoin, we're going to just look at Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP's liquidity. So we'll start with Bitcoin on the daily. Like, nothing's changed, guys. I know that people are overly bearish out there, but realistically, we've got the most liquidity above us. We do have some liquidity actually building at 74k, so I'm not saying we couldn't take that. I personally believe that we do see all-time highs when that comes. Again, I'm not 100% sure. If I knew, I'd tell you, but I don't think there's a world where this liquidity gets left. And that story is similar for Ethereum. If we look at Ethereum on the daily, lovely clean 5 waves to the upside, and we've had some consolidation, some chop, potential reaccumulation here back into this area of demand here. Look, we come into this support, bounced in support so far. Now, I'm not saying there's no liquidity below, but there's nothing below us in comparison to what's above. And when we were down in this section here, if you remember my newsletter, and you can go and check it, it's there. I wrote 2 or 3 newsletters in this period here, and maybe even into this period here in wave 1, or the end of wave 1 into wave 2, where I was saying, look, at some point, ETH, and soon, I presume soon, the ETH would make a new all-time high because of the amount of liquidity that was above us. And guess what? That's what we went and did. And I think exactly the same thing here. I think the risk reward in the trade's good. I think if we were in this area, we've done what, 90% to the upside. I think that's where ETH could be doing something similar like that again. Be looking at 90% to $6,000. I think that's quite realistic. That's why I think the ENA trade is looking pretty good. ENA would bring us back way more than 90%. I think it's 500 or so percent if this trade gets filled. And that's why I'm taking the risk on ENA, because I like the stablecoin narrative. I like the DeFi narrative. I think some ETH exposure is not awful. You're looking at a 473% upside return if that trade comes in, as opposed to what would be 90% over there on ETH if you took the same trade on ETH. Now, I'm not saying that there are a few things that have to go right for that to happen, but that's why I'm willing to take the risk more there on ENA. Now, so we look at XRP as well, or do you want to look at ETH hourly just quickly before we look at XRP? We didn't cover that. Just quickly check the ETH hourly liquidity. I don't think I've checked this for a little while, so I'll be interested to see what this looks like as well. Let's have a look. So looks like as well there's a majority of the hourly liquidity is above us, but only slightly above us, maybe at 3.3. So we could wick that and then come down. But again, normally, yeah, there's more liquidity up here at like 4.3. And now we'll go to XRP. We'll start on XRP with whatever we're on, the hourly. Lovely, let's have a look. Now, XRP looks a little bit different on the hourly. There's significant liquidity below us here. That's really dense liquidity. A lot of people really putting in long positions there. I would be surprised if we leave that sort of liquidity behind. So maybe we sweep that, close this little gap here. Like we've got a gap there. Maybe we sweep that gap, close there, or even just come into this lower liquidity there. But then above us, again, a lot of liquidity is forming as well, all the way up to like 240. So we could wick down into the like 190s and then potentially return back up towards like 243, towards 250. With more liquidity, look, sitting up here at 270. If we take us to the daily, have a look what's going on the daily time frame as well. What we can see is maybe we just wick this liquidity here. This is what we've just been discussing. But look above us, the denseness of the liquidity above us is not even on the same page. It's not even got the 3x on. So it's not even on the same page as the amount of liquidity that we have below. There's so much liquidity above us. And I'd just be so surprised if we don't see at least a $4.25, $4.30 XRP at some point in the not too distant future when we break out of this downtrend. And you can see quite clearly, it doesn't have to follow an exact trend, but you can see quite clearly that we're in like a descending parallel channel, and these are reversal patterns. Like this should reverse to the upside. When you break parallel channels, you should go back to the point of origin, which is 370, 365. So I do expect that when this channel does break eventually, it's just like coiling up in a spring, and when you do get the break, it is quite aggressive. It's a bull flag. People can use that as a pattern as well, bull flag pattern, or descending parallel channel. But either way, like I think we return to the upside there and set new all-time highs for XRP. Again, I'm not a predictor of time, but that is what I think is coming. That's roughly all I really have to tell you today. The last thing I want to mention is this. Solana yesterday tweeted 589, as you guys probably know. I don't know if you do for sure, but I presume you do. I'll just quickly show you the tweet. If I can find it. Here you go. 589. They tweeted it 22 hours ago. What does it mean? I don't know. Obviously, 589's been a key figure in the XRP community with riddlers, etc. And Solana going into breakpoint tomorrow. I think it's Thursday, and then over the weekend, the 11th till the 13th. So that'll be in 3 days' time or 2 days' time. So yeah, Thursday I think it is, into the 13th. And we'll wait to see if there's any announcement around that. Like, I know that a lot of people aren't putting much weight on this. People are saying that it's trolley, but I think it's weird how they sent it to some like XRP content creators. Literally DM'd it to people like Bank XRP and followed Bank XRP, for example, just before breakpoint. I would be surprised if there's not some sort of announcement here, and I hope it's more. And I'm not trying to disrespect any project like Wormhole or Axelar, but I hope it's more than just a bridge, and I hope there's some partnership potentially there. I think that we could learn a lot from Solana, and Solana could learn a lot from us. Solana is kind of like the degen chain, where people have just messing around essentially. The reason why I say we could learn a lot from them is what it feels like from my perspective, and I'm 90%, 95% XRP, is that people within the Solana ecosystem do participate within the ecosystem quite a lot. However, people within the XRP community don't participate as much, and I don't understand exactly why that is. Maybe it's the generation of people that hold and the thought process they have behind their holdings, etc. But I don't think it's a negative to be more participatory within your own ecosystem, and that's what I'm trying to do, push my boundaries a little bit here with things like Flare and Firelight, and then that's why I'm doing that, because I think it's good for the ecosystem generally to participate. It incentivizes builders to build things, and hopefully could give you more of a return on your investment of your capital. Yes, it comes with risk, which is why I know that a lot of people aren't that active within the ecosystem, but yeah, they're just my thoughts anyway. You want to bring more people on chain, you want to get activity higher. It's good for chain metrics, and it's good for incentivization of more applications and more products to be built on the chain, which then is a network effect and brings more people. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend. Please do make sure you do subscribe. It's free to do, and it helps me out a lot. If you'd like to trade on any leverage, I've got a link to WeX and MEXC in the description of this video, both non-KYC exchanges. As always, nothing that I say is financial advice, but I do hope you enjoyed. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.